She walks into the label's office with walls of platinum and a desk polished to a glare. Across from her executive with a practiced smirk. She isn't polished, she's electric. A worn leather jacket studded with soda can tabs catches the fluorescent light. Lightning bolt streaks across her face. In her hand, a CD boldly labelled "Too Weird for Radio." And he doesn't even press play. He just slides his demo back and says, "You're fun, but lose the costumes, tone down the lyrics, and be more normal." She doesn't flinch. With a slow and knowing smile, she stands and says, "If you can't handle the demo, you'll never handle the show." And that wasn't just a comeback. That was the moment Stephanie Germanotta chose to double down instead of dial down. And Lady Gaga was born. In the next few minutes, we'll peel back how every too much became rocket fuel and how your too much can too. And stay to the end, because the final rejection she flipped will rewrite how you hear criticism for the rest of your life. They told Gaga that she was too much, too weird, too dramatic, too loud. But here's the question, who decided too much is bad? You've probably heard it. Be realistic, don't be greedy, tone it down, don't be so loud, don't talk so much. And every time you shrink, trading fire for safety, waking up tired, not from a lack of sleep, but from dragging a life it doesn't fit. That's not humility, that's self-betrayal. And Gaga doubled down. What they mocked as too much became her empire. So where are you dimming your desire just to keep others comfortable? The second you shrink your wants to fit their comfort, you don't just lose the dream, you lose yourself. Wanting more isn't greed. It isn't arrogance, it's a direction. The danger isn't wanting too much, it's convincing yourself you should want less. At 15, she sat at a beat-up piano in a dim New York room. Voice too big for a cracked mic. Half the crowd leaned in, muttered, "Dramatic much? Who does she think she is?" That's the moment most people shrink, but Gaga didn't. She booked the same venue every week, showed up louder, stranger, and more. By month 6, the room wasn't half empty, it was overflowing. She didn't fit the room, she made the room fit around her. You felt that pull for more and killed it before it could even breathe. You glimpse a bigger life, house, freedom, impact, and guilt clamps it down. Who am I to want that? You taste the thought of leaving the safe job to start something real, and fear hisses, "Don't be stupid." You crave deeper love, but shame says, "Be grateful, don't expect too much." You betray yourself, not loudly, but quietly. You bite your tongue. You choose safe over true. You bury dreams so deep you stop admitting them. That's not humility, that's betrayal. And if you do it long enough, and mornings get heavy even when life looks fine, the parts that they call too much are usually the parts that make you unforgettable. Early mockery became Gaga's signature. And desire isn't selfish, it's your compass. Silence it, and you don't become noble, you become numb. Because playing small doesn't protect you, it punishes you. Every time you shrink, you reinforce the lie, "My truth isn't worth living." Or what do I want that I've been too afraid to admit, even to myself? And if you shrink your desires to fit their comfort, and you don't just lose the dream, you lose yourself. You're not broken, you're living in betrayal of your own desire. What more isn't the danger? Pretending you don't is. Before Gaga, there was Stephanie, the girl told to blend in, nicknamed the cartoon closet, told to dress normal. Maybe you know that. The achiever, the strong one, the quiet one. Roles that keep others comfortable while you suffocate. She leaned in harder, turned weird into armour. Armour became brand. What role you still performing that no longer fits who you are? Now masks might win approval, but they cost intimacy with others and with yourself. The most dangerous prisons aren't made out of stone, they're made of roles. College Stephanie got reduced to a caricature. Anime closet. Be smaller so we feel better. You felt that, if not in words then in looks, silence, subtle punishments for taking up space. The roles you wore to survive, achiever, fixer, strong one, quiet one, the what then? The shelters become cages when the storm passes. Wear them long enough and you forget the face beneath the mask. The world wants normal, predictable, safe. Your soul wants oxygen. Roles are strategies, not identities. They're meant for weather, not forever. The mask that wins approval costs intimacy. They don't know you, and neither do you. You don't rise by perfecting the role, you rise by burning the script. So what role am I still performing that no longer fits me? Gaga didn't become unforgettable by blending in. She became unforgettable by refusing to do so. Your identity isn't the mask you wear, it's the face you've been hiding behind it. 2013, ARTPOP, Headlines come up #ARTFlop. You share your work, your truth. Critics swarm. Shame screams. You bury the project and call it a failure. But Gaga didn't quit. She toured for 2 years, turning a flop into one of her most profitable eras. The failure was a foundation. What dream did you bury because the first review stung? Shame isn't proof that you're broken, it's programming designed to keep you small. And shame doesn't mean you failed. Shame means you tried. ARTPOP drops. Pundits peck. She's over. Twitter starts chanting #ARTFlop. The internet loves a public shaming. Most would vanish, but Gaga didn't. She dragged the flop on tour, transformed stages into living installations, and quality out-earned the headlines. You put your work out, the poem, the pitch, the prototype, the truth, and it lands with a thud. A few sneers, a couple of eye rolls, and you retreat. Lock the dream in the door. That's not data, that's damage talking. And shame targets power. If it weren't potent, shame wouldn't show up. And a flop isn't a finish line, it's a detour. Roads to legacy zigzag. Numbers measure reach, they don't measure impact. The long game has receipts. So what have you buried because the first review hurt too much? And sales are just snapshots. Criticism is commentary. Neither one of them defines your legacy. Legacy is the long exposure, and the only way to ruin it is to quit. Fear is a master of disguise. The whispers like wisdom. Play it safe, stay neutral. On the Super Bowl stage, Gaga sings about justice. Critics rage, too political. You know the instinct, bite your tongue, work, shrink at home, chase, safe. While they ranted, youth hotlines spiked. Being neutral doesn't save people, truth does. So what truth did you silence because fear dressed up as wisdom? Because fear sells safety, and truth sells freedom, and only one is worth buying. Fear doesn't always sound like fear, sometimes it sounds reasonable. Biggest stage in America, this land is your land. Fight for your rights. Backlash detonates. Offstage, something else happens. People in pain hear a lifeline and reach out in droves. You've done this. In the meeting room, you'll swallow your opinion. At the family table, you'll change the subject. Online, you'll delete the post. It feels like safety, but the trade is yourself. Slowly, invisibly, you exit your own life. Because fear is an alarm, not a compass. Alarms get triggered even when there's no fire. Silence isn't protection, it's erasure. And being neutral isn't virtue, it's camouflage. You don't grow by hiding. So what truth have you silenced to keep the peace? Fear sells you a cage and calls it safety. Truth costs comfort and returns freedom. At the end of your life, you won't wish you were safer, you will wish you were truer. If this is hitting different, smash like and tap subscribe. It helps us reach the people quietly googling, am I too weird to make it? And stay with me, because in the next sections, we'll cut the deepest, the authenticity, the power in your future, and in the end, I'll give you a simple framework to apply all this without blowing up your life. Critics call Gaga over the top in House of Gucci. Have you ever poured your soul into something and get told it's too much? But she didn't argue, she created. 6 months with a dialect coach, an Oscar nod. Where are you hiding your gift because someone might snark? The only reply that silences critics for good is brilliance that they can't deny. Every mask you wear for your approval taxes your authenticity. So House of Gucci lands. Pundits snipe. Overacted, cartoonish. Gaga doesn't clap back. She lets craft do the talking. 6 months with a dialect coach, living in her home, every vowel wrestled to truth. Nomination secured. Meanwhile, behind the fashion and thunder, there's Gaga. 5'2", IV drips before stadiums, tears, pain you can't filter. She doesn't just perform, she reveals. 2 mirrors, excellence, vulnerability. Both louder than any headline. And you've been there. You present, create, love loudly, someone calls it too much. The reflex is to trim the edges, to shrink your colour palette to beige. But shaving off your edges for applause leaves you with nothing sharp enough to cut a path forward. Critics don't define your ceiling, they sharpen it. Friction refines. And excellence is the loudest clapback. Just out-create the commentary. And vulnerability isn't the opposite of power, it's how power conducts. Connection is a current. What gift have I buried because I'm afraid they'll laugh? Now they can argue with your style, they can't argue with undeniable. The only way to silence doubt for good is to outcreate it. Stay in your lane, you're just a singer. You know the feeling, knocking at closed doors, waiting to be picked. Gaga didn't wait, she authored. She authored A Star Is Born on a napkin and handed it to Bradley Cooper. So what closed door are you still knocking on when you could build your own stage? Permission isn't given, it's claimed. Your power isn't theirs to grant. No one can steal your power, but you can hand it away by waiting for permission. Hollywood saw a pop star, not a lead. cameos, background roles. Stay in your lane. Gaga scribbles her treatment in a diner. Walks to Bradley Cooper. She doesn't audition, she offers. You've stood at doors that never open. The promotion that skims past you. The partnership that strings you along. The maybe that keeps you orbiting. Every minute you wait to be chosen, you refuse to choose yourself. And a closed door isn't rejection, it's a redirection to build a new entrance. Because permission isn't offered, it's authored. Authority comes from authorship. Create the thing you want to be chosen for. What stage am I avoiding building because I'm still waiting for an invitation? And every time you wait for permission, you give away power that was always yours. Power isn't granted, it's claimed. If your future feels heavy, it's not yours. Career suicide. They say that about Gaga's jazz album with Tony Bennett. Defeat and Jakarta banned her concert. Maybe you felt your dreams dismissed before they even started, but Cheek to Cheek hit #1 and won a Grammy. Years later, she streamed into living rooms that once said no. Dead ends become doorways. So whose future am I building? Mine or the one they'll approve? You can't shrink your way into a skyline. You can only expand into it. And a future built on shoulds is a cage. A future built on truth is oxygen. Pop Titan does jazz, career suicide. She does it anyway. Cheek to Cheek debuts at #1, wins a Grammy, and extends Tony Bennett's touring life for years. A collaboration that became a tribute. Indonesia denies permits, haters call it defeat, she promises I'll perform for you one day. Later, she beams a global show into the very homes that said no. The no wasn't an ending, it was a setup. You pick paths that look respectable, the job that impresses, the relationship that ticks boxes, the goals that make everyone nod. It works on paper. Inside, each step gets heavier because you're lifting someone else's idea of your life. A dead end isn't the end, it's a reroute to something bigger. And a should-built future will always feel heavy, whereas a truth-built futures feel like home. You don't negotiate your way into a skyline by shrinking, you expand into it. If my future feels heavy, whose life am I actually building? The life that looks perfect to them but suffocates you isn't success, it's self-betrayal in designer clothes. The day you stop betraying your future for theirs is the day you finally start living yours. Across music, film, fashion, activism, Gaga never once asked, am I allowed? She asked, am I aligned? Every too much became a thread in a cape that she learned to fly with. And yours can too. The first thing to do is spot the betrayal. Where are you shrinking right now? Desire, identity, shame, fear, authenticity, power, or future. Finish the sentence, I betray myself when I, then name the cost. Energy leaks, resentment, missed chances. Write one line, this costs me blank every week. Then take one act of permission. Say it once, out loud. Drop one role for one day. Share the flop with one safe person. Speak the opinion you've been swallowing. Do the thing you're afraid they'll mock. Stop knocking and build the stage. Choose one reroute against a past no. Do this for 2 weeks and stop waiting for permission. You'll start generating it. If you're done betraying yourself and ready to live aligned, the Clan Training Grounds is where we make this real. It's where I run monthly masterclasses on topics like this. You bring the stuckness, the shame, the too much, we turn it into momentum together. Check the description for details and join us inside the Clan Training Grounds. They've said you're too much. Good, let's turn it up.